Good evening, families. Thank you for joining us tonight. I appreciate all of you that have made time to join our family meeting number 2. Our goal tonight is to provide you some updates and provide you with a space to ask questions. So before we begin, I want to, anyone that needs interpretation, we are going to watch a short little video to help you activate that, that tool on Zoom. En este momento, si usted necesita interpretación, vamos a ver un video, un corto video para que usted pueda activar ese botón en esta aplicación que está ahorita de Zoom.
Para seleccionar interpretación en español, quiere seleccionar el botón abajo de su pantalla de la ventana del chat. Va a decir interpretación. Cuando haga 2 opciones, inglés o español, segura que seleccionas español para escuchar la traducción en español.
Gracias, thank you. Also, if you're not familiar with Zoom, there is a section here, as you can see in the image, where you can raise your hand throughout this presentation if there's something that you would like to say, or there's also the chat box where you could type in any comments or any questions that you have throughout the presentation. So tonight's agenda, we will go over some schedules, some student schedules, school schedules, what to expect during distance learning. We will hear from a parent tonight. We're going to go through the Jupiter grades and advisory. And then we're going to open it up for any questions that you might have, any questions or concerns. And then we're going to end the meeting with a raffle. So with that said, I'm going to pass it over to co-principal Tom.
Good evening, everybody. I think, Rosemary, you might have said this. I'm sorry if I missed it. If you please put your name, if you're a family member or student, put your name in the chat. And that's how we qualify you for the raffle. And so anybody who can type their name into the chat, you'll be eligible to win a prize. I believe it's food, grocery certificate for the end of the meeting, at the end of the meeting. All right, thank you. So again, I'm Tom Sheriff. I'm Ms. Rivera's co-principal. We have 2 principals at Fremont, for those of you that aren't aware. I'm going to quickly review some information we covered last time. And I think part of the reason we want to do this is there's a lot of words being thrown around and we know it's really confusing. And so you might have heard this, the word synchronous when you hear people talk about distance learning. Distance learning just means online learning, right? The learning that your students are going to be doing when they're not at school in the actual building. And synchronous is another way of saying it's when there's like a fixed time learning activity. And so as we talked about last time, this might look like a live class on Zoom or Google Meet where the teacher invites all the students together. It might look like a group of students working together online, either in a Zoom breakout room or in another platform where they're working together to accomplish a task. And it also might look like one-on-one appointments or interviews, conversations with the teacher. And so any of those things fall under the label synchronous or fixed learning time. Next slide. So again, these are just some examples of what that time could look like. We're going to go over the schedule, which we know has been very confusing for folks. But during the fixed or the synchronous times at 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. every day, these are the types of things that you should be expecting your student to be engaging in. And so it's the direct interaction with the teacher or with students in the class. Next slide. So the other side of that is asynchronous. And so we also know that that's a confusing other new word that's been thrown around a lot. And essentially it's what we're using to describe everything that students are doing when they're not logging on to a live class with their teachers. We're asking our teachers to really be mindful of not requiring too much technology because we know that that's a challenge. And we are trying to make sure that everything is coming through Google Classroom. And so everything that your student needs to know in terms of what they should be doing should be posted to Google Classroom for their classes. I wanted to look at, next slide, the just review how to, like where students should be going when they're doing their asynchronous learning or their flexible learning. The most important is that they're able to sign into their OUSD email account. And so we went over that last time. It is their _, their first name, last name @ousd.org. And then their password, their initial password is 00 and their 6-digit student ID number or lunch number. And so this is something that if your student cannot access their OUSD email account, they won't be able to engage with pretty much the majority of things that they have to do online for distance learning. And so we want to make sure that you're reaching out to the student's advisor, or we'll put the Fremont email in the chat to make sure that people have access to that as well. And you can let us know if your student's having trouble signing in. But once they are able to sign into their email, they have access to Aries and Google Classroom. And so in Google Classroom, it might look like this. In the right corner, there's it looks like a keypad. That's what the student would click on from their email to open up Google Classroom. You'll see an application underneath there where they can join all the Google Classrooms that they've been invited to. So the student is currently invited to 3 different Google Classrooms, one for advisory, one for biology, and one for ethnic studies. The student just has to open up that classroom and they'd be able to see all of the assignments and materials that the teacher has posted. And so this is what it would look like. So for example, if the student has Miss Priestley for biology during period 7, they would see the list of assignments for that week or that are most recent listed under classwork. One thing I wanted to make sure parents saw is right there where it says missing. This is a really good way for you to know if your student has completed the work that's been assigned to them. And so if you look at asked to see your student's Google Classroom and you see that there's some missing assignments there, really important to follow up with them and have them follow up with their teachers to make sure that they're getting those assignments in. Okay, so I'm going to transition to talking about the schedule, which I know is confusing, and we're going to do our best to try and simplify it. But we certainly will be taking questions about this as well in a few minutes. So the main idea on this slide is that we've just made it through the first 2 weeks of welcome, where we were doing wellness checks, making sure students were connected with their advisory, that they had the technology they need, and that teachers were prepared for students. And then on Monday, next Monday, the 24th, students will be starting quarter 1. And so for those, it's really only 7 weeks at this point, but on average, they're about 9 weeks long each quarter. That is the amount of time that students will have to earn a grade for each of those 4 classes listed. So for the first quarter, from August 24th to October 9th, they will have advisory on Monday, they'll have period 1 on Tuesday, period 3 on Wednesday, period 2 on Wednesday, and period 3 on Thursday. Friday, which we'll go over in a second, is a work day and a chance for students to get caught up and work directly with teachers that they need help with. At the end of those 9 weeks, or at the end of October 9th, students will start quarter 2. And so for the next 10 weeks until the end of, till right before winter break, students will have period 4, 5, 6, and 7 on each of those respective days of the week. And so again, in quarter 3, we just repeat. And so we earn another semester's worth of credit. And then quarter 4, we repeat the second half of the schedule. So basically each semester is broken up into 2 quarters or 2 parts, and students have half of their classes for quarter 1 and half of their classes for quarter 2. So we look at the next slide. This is just a review of some of the things we talked about last week, but the most important probably to highlight are the fixed times. So these are the times that you should be expecting your student to be logging on and engaging directly with teachers and students. And so from 10 to 11:15 and 1 to 2:15 every day are the fixed times for each class. And then Friday, we have a 1 hour, what we call our power hour, which is when the student will check in with their advisor and then also be able to get direct support from their teachers on the assignments for that week. The flexible times or the asynchronous times are all the other times in the day or the week that the students are working independently on assignments. And I think flexible is the key word because we want students to be able to do that work as their schedule fits. We know they have responsibilities at home, they have responsibilities to their jobs, but we want to make sure that they are still building in time to do the independent or the flexible asynchronous work. And so you can expect on average about 2 hours a day for students because the students should be receiving a total of about 4.5 hours of instruction per day. So just to give you a sense of how much time should my student be spending, if they're logging on for an hour, hour and a half, then they should have another 2 hours plus of independent work to do that day. And then the last thing that we emphasized last week is the shortness of the quarter. So the students are going to be earning their semester credit in only 9 weeks of time. And so it's really important that they aren't starting slowly or taking seriously each week in each class that they have each week. So the next slide shows you one of our teachers' sample schedules, and it gives you a sense of for each day, what does that student need to kind of have on their radar. And so every day the teacher will be expected to post their assignments by 9 a.m. In some cases that'll happen earlier, but we want to make sure that every teacher at least has been providing the materials to students before the day's class. And then there'll be a time for a live class. And there's an asterisk there because it does vary based on the teacher and how they've designed the learning for that week. But the times that are set for each day, the live class times or the synchronous times are 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. The one exception to this is, like we said, on Friday, we're having a power hour. And so at 10 a.m., students will check into a live Zoom meeting, make sure that they connect with their advisor, and then can have access or be directed to the teachers that are available for direct support and for tutoring. And then the rest of the day, students are doing work. And so outside of those live class times, they're reviewing their Google Classroom, working with other students collaboratively, meeting with teachers one-on-one, and then hopefully engaging in other activities, programs that are available online. We can see through a lot of our teachers' websites and our after-school program that there are opportunities for students even virtually. And so it's important that they take advantage of those, because there are things for them to do, both for enrichment and learning, but also for fun and to feel connected to other students at the school. The next slide is like a sample student schedule. So it'll give you a sense of what is fixed and flexible about that student's day. The items in pink are the things that are fixed. And so this is an example. This student's teachers for advisory, first period, second period, and third period are requiring them to all log on at some point in the morning from 10 a.m. To 11:15. But it looks a little bit different based on the class, and it looks a little bit different based on the day. And so some teachers might use both class periods to have a whole class Zoom. Other teachers, as in period 1, are going to have a morning class on Zoom, and then in the afternoon schedule one-on-one meetings with students. So it just gives you a sense for how that time will be broken down by teachers. And like we said before, for the weekly schedule, the most important piece is staying in touch with the students' teachers, and that they're working with their advisor and their teacher to be clear on when they have to log on together on Zoom, and when they're working independently or with a group of students. And then the rest of the times, the day that are listed here in the schedule are flexible time for them to, in the morning, log in, review the assignments for the day, check their grades in Jupyter, email teachers, take care of their responsibilities at home are kind of built in throughout this sample schedule, and so is working on assignments. And so I think that pretty much covers it. The last thing I would say, just if you look at that bottom flexible time, it is important that students are checking in for attendance with the teacher of that day, and turning in their assignments for that class. There may be some assignments that the teacher asks that are like small things that they can do during the class period for that day, but there will be other assignments that are larger assignments they should be working on throughout the week that they would turn in before the next week's class. And most of our teachers are requiring students to turn in their work by midnight the day before the class. So if I have US history on Tuesday, first period, and my teacher assigns me a 5-paragraph essay to write, by Monday night of the following week, I need to turn in that assignment to my US history teacher. Okay, and so the last thing I'm gonna just review is an important resource for our students and families, which is where you can go to get more information for each class. And so on our Fremont website, www.ousd.org/Fremont, there is a link that says distance learning during COVID-19 closure. If you click on that, it will take you, and you also have Jupyter Grades access on this page as well. But if you click on the distance learning during COVID-19, it will take you to like an online directory for each of our teachers. And so if we go to the next slide, this is where you'll see links to each of the teachers' websites. Many of our teachers have created a website for their classes. Others have created done like a Google Doc or a way to kind of give overviews of the class. But this gives you it'll let you know for each of your students' teachers what it is that are the policies for that teacher in that class, what work to be expecting, and all the things that they need to access Google Classroom and their learning online. Okay. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Rosemary, who can introduce our special guest.
Thank you, Tom. So if you just joined us, I'm Co-Principal Rivera. And at this time, I would like to introduce one of our parents who is going to be sharing her perspective with us of what she's experienced so far now that we're doing distance learning. So with that said, I'm going to pass it over to Miss Regina. And Miss Regina, here we go.
Okay.
Hi, Miss Regina. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. Okay, so if you could just share your experiences so far, What has this experience been like for you?
In the words of my kids, it's been weird and annoying at the same time. But I also find joy in it, them being home and learning from home.
Great. What has been helpful for you at this time?
Oh, I really enjoy the talking points, being able to communicate with the teachers and the staff, the talking points and email and everything. I really appreciate that. I think that's really going to work.
And what can Fremont do for you and families to help your children learn through this crisis?
Well, actually, I'm thinking just keep on with the talking points, keep on with the communication with us, reaching out to us. If they see something wrong, reach with my child, just, reach out and let us know. Let me know.
Perfect. And lastly, what are you excited about for this year?
Oh, I'm actually excited for 2020 to be over with everything's going on. But I'm excited to see my child blossom into a young man and take more initiative on his learning and his life, get him ready for adulthood.
Awesome. Thank you, Ms. Regina. Ms. Regina's been to all of our parent meetings. She's trying to stay very active, has joined our SSC. And so it is very important for us to hear from you, to understand what you're feeling, what you need help with, any resources that we can connect you with. All those things are going to help us in future meetings. So if you have any suggestions or you want to share any of your experiences or anything that Fremont can do for you and your families to help you get through this, please insert it in the chat for us. Thank you, Ms. Regina, for being open to sharing your experience with us.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, I want to transition. There's been a lot of questions around Jupiter Ed. So if you can switch the slide there so parents can see that there's an address on the top where you can log in. And also as co-principal Tom shared, you could go on to our website and directly click on Jupiter Ed and it'll take you there. If you do not have access to Jupiter Ed, I would recommend that you reach out to your student's advisor and they will give you a temporary password. So if you should by now have heard from your child's advisor and have their contact info. If you don't, please put that on the chat box so that we can make sure that you have that connection. And we can get you set up as well. So the really important thing about Jupiter Grades is that it'll get updated by teachers every Friday morning by 10 a.m. You can message teachers directly from this website, and students will receive weekly texts or daily texts from their teachers from here too. So if you want to keep up with your teachers and you want to keep up with your child's grades, please make sure that you open up an account with Jupiter Ed. The next slide, we are going to just talk a little bit about what happens in advisory. So many of you guys were concerned about they've only heard from advisory and they're not doing much there. The first 2 weeks were mainly for advisors to kind of gauge where your kids were, to try to connect them to the resources that they were going to need to get started with school this coming up Monday. But moving forward, once they start with actual advisory class, the advisor is going to really be your child's advocate. It's going to be the point person that you go to if you need support with how do I log into a certain app? How am I able to see what my child's supposed to do in other classes? So they're going to be your point person. In addition to that, they're going to help their students on their rosters keep track of their grades and keep them on track to graduation. So they're going to have times where they go, they have one-on-one meetings with your student and just have chats on making plans, academic plans or future plans, anything that your child needs to ensure that they're going to have a plan for after graduation, and then of course keeping them on track while they're in high school. For students that are in 11th and 12th grade, their advisors are going to be going over how to fill out, how to create a resume, how to fill out applications, anything that's going to get them ready for the workforce and beyond, college, how to apply for college, how to connect to our college readiness advisor, etc. So that is part of their assignment. In addition to that, if students are having trouble completing assignments or they're not able to complete something that was given to them, that is also the person that they can go to for support. So in general, advisory is basically to make sure that your child is successful in their academics and above high school. And hopefully, like I said earlier, hopefully you have heard from your advisor. If you haven't, please let us know in the chat box so that we can connect you to your child's advisor. Really, really, really important. On Monday, all of, and you can switch it to the next slide, all students are going to be required to log on at 10 a.m. to have a live class with their advisor. And this is going to be important because next week is when a student's schedule actually starts. So they'll have advisory Monday, like Tom said, and then on Tuesday, they have first period. So if your child's confused about where am I going to go on Tuesday, or where am I supposed to log in, I don't have the link to that class, all those questions the advisor can support with on Monday, August 24th at 10. So make sure that your child logs on at 10 a.m. on Monday. Okay, and I think at this time, if we're going to open it up to questions. So if you have questions, please raise your hand. There is a button here. It's if you click more, then you should see raise your hand. So you could do that, or you could type in your question in the chat box.
So there was a question, do IEPs still apply during distance learning? Absolutely. And we have our assistant principal, Mr. Wayner, who's also on the, is here as an attendee. So he might only be able to respond via chat, but we can put his email address in the chat so that you can get in touch directly with him. We're very lucky to have Mr. Wayner as an expert of special education and supporting students. And so there will be specific things that need to happen for students in a distance learning context. And so we want to make sure that they're getting that support, as well as the other accommodations and modifications that they would normally receive through their IEP.
Hi, this is Mr. Wayner. I can talk now.
Anything you want to add, Mr. Wayner, about do IEPs still apply during distance learning?
Yeah, absolutely. So IEPs 100% still apply during distance learning. Your IEP case manager will be contacting you. The state is requiring us to create a specific distance learning plan for your IEP by the end of next month. So we'll be having a conversation about that so we can make sure we're providing the best services possible for your child.
There's a question around hotspots. So if you are having issues with your hotspot, please reach out to your advisor. Many advisors have access to videos to show you how to activate it. It does look like a phone. In addition to that, you can also come into school so that we can help you connect to it. So we are there 9 to 12 tomorrow, and then next week 9 to 12 as well. So that's those are two ways that you can get support.
There was a question that I believe I know the answer to, which was, can a parent sit in a class? And similarly to if we were not in distance learning, that you certainly have the right to see your child's education. You know, we certainly would request communication and just being in touch with the teacher and staff about that. But that is not a, is certainly your right to see what is going on with your child's education.
And I got the request to reach out to Portia. So I got that. Thank you. So for the question of not sure how to connect the computer, you will need a student ID and your student email and your student ID. If you don't have that, we will need to get that to you so that you can log in. And again, you can come to the school tomorrow between 9 to 12 so that we can help you connect to that.
We have a live question from Ms. Portia. You are now live.
Okay. I was wondering, you said that you are allowed to sit in on the class. So how do you go about doing that? Do you have to notify the teacher and they give you a special link, or how does that happen?
Okay, so I'm assuming that you would be joining your student while they're in class, correct? Or would you be like trying to log on from a different place?
From a different computer.
Got it. Okay, so your student should have the access to that class. They should have the link to the Zoom meeting that they're supposed to the live class that they're going to have. So she could share that with you, or he.
So you can use the same link as the student is using it at the same time?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So there are a couple questions coming up about changing a class, and I think Ms. Kim gave a good response in the chat, but essentially, you know, the classes that you're programmed into are usually graduation requirements or things that you're going to have to take at some point in at your time at Fremont. So there's not always a lot that you're able to change and still be on track for graduation. But there is, I did put a form in the chat that you can use that will go directly to your counselor. And so your counselor will follow up. You just basically say what it is that you want to change and why. And then your counselor will schedule a meeting with you to talk about your options. And so they'll tell you, like, you have to take this class to graduate, or great, here are your options. You could switch to this elective. But there's not a lot of flexibility if you're a younger student in 9th or 10th grade. It isn't until 11th and 12th grade that you have a little bit more room in your schedule to change classes. And our dream is to have a swim team, absolutely, at the pool across the street, the Fremont pool. It was not a sport that we have for this upcoming season, but it is a sport we've had in the past, and certainly hope to as well in the future.
If there's questions in Spanish, please feel free to ask. Okay, so I am going to move us forward. If you do have questions, we'll hang out a little bit towards the end of the meeting so we can continue to answer those questions. So at this time, I want, can you switch the slide? There you go, thank you. So there's going to be a couple more meetings that you could join. There is one September 2nd from 9 to 10 if you can make the morning. If you can't make the morning, we invite you to make the evening on the same day from 6 to 7. And we'll be pretty much doing the same thing, giving you updates and creating space for you to ask any questions and for us to provide you with support. Next slide, please. Technology continues to be one of those things that if you need it, please reach out to your advisor, let them know that you are needing a computer or you need a hotspot. We are running short on hotspots. So if you need one, please get to that right away. And there's also a text survey that is really important, and the link is here on the slide. You should also be getting that link through email.
I just put it in the chat too, Zura.
Perfect, thank you. All right. And I think that brings us to the next slide where it is our raffle time. And the winner, I believe, will get announced in the chat.
Our first winner for our prize today is Ms. Regina. Congratulations.
Wow. Congratulations.
And our second winner is Ms. Portia. Thank you for your questions and thank you for your participation today. You will be contacted via email to claim your prize. Thank you.
All right, congratulations to our winners. So like I said, we want to hear from you. We want to hear your feedback. We want to support you. So we are, next slide will show all of our contact info. You can email us there. Both co-principals' emails are listed. Our assistant principal, Bias, she's mostly handling a lot of the technology. If you need any sort of supplies, please email us as well. Any special ed questions can go to Mr. Wayner. His email is also listed. The link to our website and any information for families, you can find it at OUSD Family Central. So those are all very important contact emails for you. That concludes our meeting for tonight. If you want to hang out and ask questions, please do so. If not, you are welcome to check out. Again, thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you at our next meeting.